what do you want from us, from this presidency, when the Czech Republic takes it over? And they said, we want Ireland to be isolated. To be isolated. We want every other country to have ratified this treaty, and we want Ireland to be isolated, to be on its own. So that, obviously, we would be in a position where they could say, everyone else has said yes to this, vote again, or else we'll be left behind, whatever. Your public servants that you pay for with your tax money sat in a meeting in Dublin and asked a foreign government to diplomatically isolate our country. There used to be a word for that kind of behaviour, and the word was, and I'll say it to camera, it was treason. But we don't say things like that anymore. And I wonder how those people, Dick Roach included, can sleep in their beds with a clear conscience, having asked somebody from a foreign government to isolate us and to go along with that. Really, it's shocking. So,
sorry, why would they want to isolate us? I'm not quite clear.
Okay, this is where I now have to speculate, because your guess is as good as mine, okay? But let me speculate. Let me repeat some of the things that have been said with respect to this second referendum. We're hearing the same thing again. Let's make sure Ireland isn't left behind. Well, Ireland cannot be left behind. Under the rules of the European Union, there's no way for that to ever happen. So how do you create a sense of pressure to make people feel like, gosh, if we don't agree to this, we'll somehow be out of the club? Well, if you have every other country ratify the treaty, and Ireland is the only one that hasn't ratified, obviously it creates huge pressure. Now, the issue is right now the Czech Republic has not ratified. Their president has, their upper house, the equivalent of the Senate there, has not agreed to it, and their president has not signed it. President Kaczynski in Poland hasn't signed the treaty, and the German president hasn't signed the treaty because it is under review at the moment in the German Constitutional Court in Karlsruhe, in Germany. And they probably won't have made their decision, that court won't have made its decision, I would expect, until May or June or maybe even later. So right now you have Ireland, the Czech Republic, Germany and Poland who have not ratified this treaty. If the Czech Republic, Poland and Germany had ratified, obviously there would be a greater sense of impetus, of pressure. And I just say all of this, and I don't want to spend too long on this point, to underline the fact that this is just another example of how this current political cartel that we're dealing with here is running our country in a way that is increasingly detached from the reality on the ground, which is why economically we find ourselves facing into this economic hurricane, which I want to do something about. Because I'm not a politician. I haven't been a politician, and to tell you the truth, I don't particularly like politics. It's not something. I was asked a question only this evening. How did you ask me the question? I can't remember how you phrased it, but it was, did I find, it had a positive connotation. Was I drawn to this? And the answer is no. It's a sense of duty. I read the European Constitution. I read it as a businessman at the beginning, because I was thinking about building another pan-European business. I had built one called Broadnet in the telecommunications sector and had acquired wireless broadband licenses in 10 countries in Europe, including Germany and France and Spain and many others. and I was interested in getting into the power generation sector across Europe. And I decided I would read this constitution because I heard it was being drafted, and I figured that if I read it, I would be able to identify trends that would make these pan-European roll-ups, as we call them in business, in different industries, easier to do, easier to raise financing for, and to have electricity interchanges so that you could sell electricity from one country to another. But by page 9 of me reading this document, I was changing out of the businessman's mindset and into the mindset of somebody that's got 4 kids. Because I couldn't believe what I was reading, and it begged belief to read this thing, because it was clearly not just undemocratic, but anti-democratic. Because it created an unelected president of Europe. It made us European citizens. I have no problem with being a European citizen. I actually think it's okay. But it made that citizen additional to Irish citizenship, not complementary to it. It also categorically stated that its laws were supreme, that the laws of the Union have primacy over the laws of the member states. So somebody would say to you, oh, but sure, that's been in every treaty since for a while. And that's true. It's established what they call jurisprudence. The European courts already act that way. But it never before made you legally a European citizen, in addition to your national citizenship. Which means that if you are in front of the activist European judges in the European Court of Justice, those judges will be adjudicating you as a European citizen. And all citizens of any state must be equal before the law. Whose law? The supreme law. Whose law is supreme? The law of the European Union, because it says it in the treaty. Which means if there is anything, anywhere in Irish law, or French law, or anything else that contradicts the laws of this union, the laws of the union will prevail every single time, because you are a European citizen. Which is all good and well until there's some law that you don't like that contradicts Irish law, where somebody takes a case and you'll find that that ends up being done in Ireland or anywhere else across Europe, which does raise a number of interesting questions. Now, all of this is all good and well, and for good or for ill, I have come to be aware of this stuff and have built a team to make sure that we first of all know what we're talking about, which will differentiate us immediately from the political cartel in this country. And secondly, that we then can do something to correct the situation. And let me just remind you, because that may have sounded sort of nasty to say that about the political cartel, but they did say they didn't read it, right? The treaty. They said it. I didn't say it. They said it. And they did. And by the way, I don't doubt that there are very decent, honest, sincere politicians in Ireland. I know there are. And I don't doubt that many people fitting that description called on the Irish people to vote yes. But I do think that when you are in elected office and you are a public servant, you have a sacred duty to know what you are talking about when you are telling people to go to a ballot box and vote a particular way. And I absolutely believe, absolutely believe to the soles of my shoes, that if many of those people that told us to vote yes